We believe that collaborative conversations will lead to better outcomes in the world of mental health. Welcome to the Lift and Make Lighter podcast.
Welcome to the Lift and Make Lighter podcast. I'm Andrea Beckstrom, the host, and I'm the medical director at LÉVO. And I'm here with Dr. Emma Mansour, PhD and licensed psychologist, and founder of Life Matters Counseling and Psychological Services. And she hosts a podcast as well.
Yes.
That's called Because Health Matters, and it's because mental health matters.
Right.
And it is fantastic. They are short episodes with several takeaways. I've listened to all of them, so I highly recommend. And her practice helps clients reconnect with themselves, build resilience, and live with intention. I love this part, especially in the second half of life. Yep. That can be really tough for people. Speak about that a little bit, Emma. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. So I actually, when I was going through my PhD program, did a master's in gerontology, which is, I guess, included in the second half of life, or definitely the latter part of life. And getting into sort of the second half of life myself, I was like, wow, there's not a lot that's spoken about in terms of how we transition in roles, how we just transition health-wise, energy levels, responsibilities. And so that's sort of where that interest came for me, and hoping to sort of fill that need.
Yeah, big need. I hear about that a lot. People feeling a bit lost at that time and not like themselves. So I did want to touch on that you're a psychologist, which is incredible. But I think for the listeners, I'd love if you don't mind explaining a little bit about the difference between a psychologist and a therapist, and a psychiatrist, or I'm a psych NP.
Yeah.
A lot don't even know what that is. So kind of explaining your role as a psychologist.
A lot of it boils down to, the main difference is the education we received and what that education allows us to do, right? So your master's level therapist is trained in therapy and in delivering individual therapy, group therapy. Your psychologist has got a PhD, and part of that doctoral training has been in psychological testing. And so the psychologist can also do individual therapy, but they also can do assessment. Your psychiatrist has gone to medical school. So they are trained as a doctor, and they've chosen to specialize in mental health or psychiatric disorders. So
you do not prescribe medications, right? Psychiatrists and psychiatric nurse practitioners do prescribe.
Yes. And
therapists do not prescribe medication.
No.
Right. Okay.
And not all therapists do testing. So a lot of times clients can come in to their family practitioner, let's say ADHD, which we'll talk about in a minute, right? So they may say, I have ADHD, and they're going to be referred out to a psychologist for testing. So that is to get the diagnosis and the evaluation. But not all therapists can do that. It has to be the psychologists who do that.
Yeah. I love that you said that, they go to their primary doctor or pediatrician and they or their child has been diagnosed with ADHD. But why is the testing important to get, and not just you have ADHD without any other info besides they're saying they have foggy brain, they're losing things, the classic symptoms?
Really, what the testing is really helpful for is making sure that the symptoms you're experiencing are not situational, right? So situational could be at work, right? So you're not going to get a diagnosis of really anything, right, if it's only occurring in one situation. The other thing that the testing is important for is to make sure that this has been long-standing, right? So this isn't just something that's occurred because maybe there's been, a death in the family, and that's made you feel really sort of out of sorts, right? Or something hasn't just changed in your life and it's looking like ADHD, but isn't, right? So, and I think really the bottom line is the doctor doesn't have enough time to sit with you to really get that life history. So when you're coming into the psychology office, we are trained in that model, right? We have the time. We know clinical interviews take at least an hour, and we, know how to do that. We can fit that into our caseloads. And then obviously you're taking the report that we're going to give you back to the doctor who's going to look through it and make sure that it adds up with what they know, but they don't have the time or the training.
Right.
We've all been to the doctor. It's like in and out, right? And you wonder how they really know anything about what's going on, but it's like we just don't have the time, right?
Right.
So
that's nice that you can spend the time.
Yeah.
And also, I know, many are diagnosed with ADHD. They might get psychological testing and know they have the ADHD, but other benefits are you can diagnose learning difficulties within that as well, such as dyslexia and other things, right?
Right.
I find that beneficial because there's no one trying harder in a classroom than a child dealing with these things that might not have support or even know that that's going on, and that is hard to think about.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to really look at everything as you do, to make sure you're covering all the bases and they're getting the right help needed for difficulties in math or reading or processing disorder, things like that.
Now, we don't actually test children. So
What
this
age?
would mostly be adults, so
Okay.
18 and older. And just for everyone to understand, like in terms of dyslexia or dyscalculia, which is the math learning disorder, those are not necessarily things you'd need to test for unless you were in college. So that's where that comes into play. So you might have, taken 3 semesters of like math 10-10 and you're sort of pulling your hair out and hoping you don't have to pay for it again. And that's when you would come in to say, okay, that there's maybe a focus issue. And in addition, I've had this history with math that has just been a struggle for me, no matter how many tutors I've had and how long I'm spending studying for it. And then that's where a psychologist can also come in and say, well, let's test for that too.
Okay, that's great.
Yep.
Such helpful information.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hear from a lot of people that if they come in and get testing for themselves or even an adult child here or, a child elsewhere for neuropsych testing, they say they'll have a label. I wouldn't want them to be stuck with this label and have an excuse for getting out of things and say, oh, it's my ADHD. How do you navigate that if you get someone that comes in that, would benefit, you think, from testing, but is scared about the label and having that follow them throughout life?
Yeah, I think it's obviously going to depend on the individual, but in my clinical experience, I very rarely run into a case where someone gets a label, which is just one way of saying an understanding of what they're dealing with that they haven't felt relief by. Right? Like, oh, there's a thing. This is a thing, right? Like I'm not going crazy. Like there's actually a thing called this that I'm dealing with, and other people are dealing with this. It's like, yeah, we're not alone, right? And because we know what this is, we now know we have hope on what we can do about it, right? And I think that's the beauty in sort of getting the label or the diagnosis. It's like, oh, well, now I know what to do.
Yeah,
right?
You can take action with that.
Yep.
I love that. So there's definitely an uptick with diagnosis in ADHD, particularly in women 30 and older. Can you speak to that?
Yeah.
And why maybe, and how it affects women?
Yep. I think the consensus out there is that women can mask it better, right? So if, what I hear is, I have to make sure the kids are getting where they're going, right? I've got to make sure that, the house is like, we know where the backpacks are. We know where the things are, right, around the house. They're working extra hard to stay organized, right? So it looks like everything's fine, right? But the level of anxiety, right, and sort of dysregulation that accompanies that trying extra hard is what's throwing people off balance. And sort of, I'll hear it all the time. Is it supposed to be this hard?
Yeah.
Right? Is everyone struggling this way? Right? So there's always that gnawing thought that says, like, this can't be what everyone else is doing, right? And from that, there's sort of a depression that comes along, right? Sort of this feeling that if I can't have command over my environment or my life or my wants, then I must be the problem, right? And if I'm the problem, then I'll hear this too all the time, right? Then I'm ruining everyone's life.
Right.
And that's a heavy burden to bear, right? Where I think, because they're masking it, it doesn't allow them to acknowledge that maybe it could just be that.
Which is a relief.
Right. And then it's a relief. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Then they don't think it's a character flaw.
Yeah.
I know that there's a psychologist, Dr. Ellen Littman, who has studied neurodiverse brains for 35 years. And she co-authored Understanding Girls with ADHD and said, anxiety and depression turn into low self-esteem, self-loathing, and the risk of self-harm and suicide attempts is 4 times higher for girls with ADHD than girls without.
Yeah.
And that's scary to me.
Yeah.
That just says, get info, get an understanding of what's going on and why you might feel off.
Yeah. And for the larger sort of society out there, being able to consider that an option
Yes.
when someone's not doing well in school, especially girls. I think it's on the list of options more readily for boys, just because they are going to present very differently. Girls can be most often socialized to know how to sit still, sit quiet. I've had a lot of adults come into my office who have, in childhood, they have just done fine. No, it's not been flagged. And sometimes it's really interesting the strategies they've come up with. Right? One person said, I just realized that if I looked like I was reading, no one would bother me.
Yeah.
Right. So they're quiet.
They're good at that.
Right. And look, they're reading versus the boy that's spinning around in the chair. And then every parent-teacher conference, they're saying, well, could we have ADHD? Right. Or I was just getting good enough grades.
Right.
I wasn't a bother. Right. But girls, I think, are socialized a little bit to know how to do that. And that's part of the masking.
Right.
Right.
And I think girls turn inward. And so then they have the low self-esteem. They are sitting there looking at everyone's desk or locker or backpack that's all organized. And they think, why can't I do that? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
That's terrible. I know a lot of people with ADHD often hear more words of correction than connection. There's a statistic that says studies estimate that children with ADHD receive around 20,000 more negative or corrective messages than other children by age 10. That is hard to hear. This can obviously lower self-esteem and make someone feel not good enough.
Yeah.
So how can someone better focus on connection? You obviously need to get things done, right? There's things to be done in life, but if it be a spouse that has ADHD and, someone's frustrated, I'm sure you see that scenario, or someone that is hearing that from other people. How do you help guide through that?
Yeah. I think you're hitting in the realm that I hear a lot, which is, I've something like a client will say, I've been told my whole life that I just need to try harder. This is one I hear all the time. Teachers are like, you're such a smart kid if you would just apply yourself. Right?
My husband heard that. Exactly. Both of those phrases over and over.
You're such a smart kid if you could just try harder. And a lot of my adult clients coming in will be like, I didn't know what that meant. Because in my mind, I was trying my hardest, right? There wasn't any harder to give. And I think that's a correction, right? Try harder because you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Right. There's a really prominent book in the ADHD field called, Do You Mean I'm Not Lazy, Crazy, or Stupid?
True.
Right? And then those are the other corrections we see. Oh, you're too lazy, right? Or,
Just
this is
apply yourself.
stupid if you would just sit down, right? So those are correction statements. The connection statements are, okay, I can see you're really struggling to get this done. Is there something you need from me?
I love that.
Right. So now we're seeing if maybe they've got ideas, but they don't know that that's a possibility because everyone else in class got this assignment done in the 20 minutes and they came home with a blank sheet of paper. Right. And they've been sitting at the desk for 5 hours trying to do 20 minutes of work. Right. Right. And instead of coming over and being like, just focus, try harder. What's wrong with you? You're not going to be able to play with your friends. I mean, these are all correction statements, right? Being like, hey, you've really struggled. I've been noticing. Can I help you somehow? What part of this are you struggling with? Is it getting started? That's an ADHD symptom, right? Okay, well, here's, I think, how I would start it. And maybe that's all it takes. And then they're getting done with the rest. Or how would you like to get this task done? You've been trying this way. Is there another way you'd like to try? And seeing if that works, right? Especially with younger children, rewards can be super helpful, right? Okay, well, every 10 minutes that we work on this, we're going to get a Skittle, right?
Right. Little motivation.
Right?
Yeah, we have, as I mentioned, my husband heard those comments growing up, and it was always so hard for him. I didn't know this. When we got married, I knew he had ADHD, but I am on the other end. I'm get stuff done early, perfectionist, kind of a rough combo when you bring that together in a household. And so when he would be behind, we were both in school at the same time for part of our schooling, and he would get behind and say, "Oh, I'm not going to do well on this test." And I would say, "Well, just let's get a tutor. Like, it's fine. Let's fix this. If you would just do the assignments." I would say exactly those things. And he had to tell me, you got to stop. You can't say that because you are reminding me of my dad, who is the kindest human, his father is. But that part was hard for him. So we had to have a discussion on me not saying those things anymore. So it's helpful. But I can see how it can cause stress in marriage. In general. It can be frustrating.
I can't, I'll hear that in relationships. I can't rely on you.
You're late, or
right. How many times have I had to tell you the same thing?
And more of those correction statements. That's hard. And I've said some of those to my husband as well. So it's hard. Okay. In your own practice, you use acceptance and commitment therapy as one modality, or one of the main modalities you use. So can you explain a little bit about that modality really simply for those that don't know what that is? And then I'd love a few examples of what that would look like if someone came in with a scenario, some ADHD symptoms. Yeah.
So acceptance and commitment therapy is basically this idea that we're not changing anything, right? We're sort of taking life, we're starting with what we have. And that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And once we recognize that that's just what we are going to walk through life with, right? We can commit to walking through life, right? Moving towards the things that we value, that we want, understanding both our strengths and our limitations. We're not going to take these limitations and focus on turning them into strengths, right? That they just exist as part of our human being, right? So with ADHD, that is going to look like maybe you can't study like all of your peers, right? And trying to is actually creating the problem, right? In adult ADHD, especially in college or sometimes at work, I'll see this, right? I have all these work tasks to do, and I start in the morning, and by the time it's 2:00, I haven't got anything done. And it's like, well, what have you been trying to do?
Right, what have you been doing?
Well, I've been looking at the computer. Why have you been doing that, right? Well, because isn't that what you're supposed to do? Right, so that would not be acceptance, right? It's like, well, if you can, that's what you're supposed to do. What if you can only look at the computer for 15 minutes at a time? And then you need to get up and walk around and get a glass of water and come back for another 15 minutes. Well, I can't do that. I mean, who works like that? You might, right? So it starts allowing the person to say, oh, maybe she's right? Wouldn't you rather have 5 15-minute chunks of really good time than 5 hours of nothing?
Yeah, nothing to show for it. Right. Still sitting there. Absolutely.
And people will resist that, right? Oh, but that's stupid. I mean, how pathetic am I that I can only do? No, right?
Yeah.
That's how you came, right? And that's how you're going to be the most productive in your life and get closer to the things that you value. And that's what this is about, right?
That's beautiful, really beautiful. And so helpful for them to see that, and that they don't have to change anything, but just navigate a little differently. I know Haley in the practice uses internal family systems, or IFS. And she was on one of the podcasts, which was so helpful hearing about what she does with that and accepting, different parts of the self.
Yep.
And one thing that she brought up was having a gentle toolkit. And that wasn't specifically for ADHD, but I did want to kind of shift a little and ask what would be some ideas for a gentle toolkit for those with ADHD. Hers, for her toolkit, was like a cozy blanket or a meditation that you like to listen to. I loved some of the ideas that she had come up with. So I kind of wanted to spin that in regards to ADHD.
Well, fidget toys, right, have all been the rage. And I think those would definitely be sort of in it. Sometimes I'll tell my clients to put up wherever their computer screen is or whatever part of life they're sort of struggling with, little sticky notes of encouragement, right? Like, you've got this, take your break, love yourself, right? Treat yourself kindly, like all those things that taking a break are.
Yes.
Actually, that would probably be in the gentle toolkit. I would say having a lunch break, take a lunch break.
That's so common. One of the top things I hear is, I don't really get lunch. I forget. I'm not hungry, if it be for meds, or they're so hyper-focused.
Yes.
They don't eat. And then that causes issues later in the day. They feel terrible. They're grumpy.
Yep.
That spins off into family and relationships. And they're like, oh, you're huffy.
Yeah.
And
you're
food.
hangry.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah. And especially if you're on ADHD medications, you are going to forget to eat. Right. So making sure you're hydrated, that you've got food, and take that lunch break as a break. Right. Don't eat lunch at the computer.
Yes.
Take it as a break. Your brain needs to do something else to come back to the task.
Right. I love the idea of maybe a short walk to boost the dopamine, get your body moving, get the wiggles out that they might not even realize they have. Some do micro movements where it's tapping their leg, but they're moving.
Yeah.
They have.
So exercise, right? Building that into your life. Vitamin D, right? So get outside, get in the sun.
Yes.
I have a client that lives in an apartment building and has one of those really cute porch balcony apartment buildings. And I'm like, this is your task. You're going to sit outside in the sun for at least 10 minutes as one of your breaks.
Good.
Right.
And that's hard for some people.
Walk, sitting outside in the middle of the day. I'm like, how lucky are you? Right. Like, reframing that, like, this, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Or you could play solitaire.
Right. Just 10 minutes.
Right.
Get out there.
Right.
I love that. What are some other practical tips you often share regarding help with ADHD?
Yeah. So the one I always start with is it's called pay attention to your attention. Most people are not really aware of where their attention span starts to wander, or when, rather, their attention span starts to wander.
Yeah.
And so I'll say, okay, we're going to start at paying attention to our attention. So the next time you sit down to work, do a task, whatever that might be, you're going to start a timer. And then whenever your mind signals to you that you're spacing out, daydreaming, maybe it says something like, oh, God, I don't know, how much longer do I have to do this? That's a sign that your attention's starting to reach its max limit, right? Or it could sound like, I've been doing this forever, right?
Feels like
Feels like I've been doing this forever. How long? Like, how much? This is too long. Stop the timer.
Okay.
And what is that number of minutes? Right? Is it 10? Is it 20? And then that's your starting point in sort of working forward, right? So every 10 minutes, you're going to check in with yourself. How am I doing?
So good.
Right?
So good.
I think I got 5 more minutes in me. Great, right? How am I doing? I can't believe it's been 10 minutes. It felt like 2 hours. That's time for break, right?
Yeah.
So just having those check-in points, that starts with knowing your attention, and it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So
that's so good.
That's my number one toolkit.
What else do you have?
The other one that I like to do is make sure that everything is on the same calendar.
Yes.
This is one that gets people tripped up all the time. Right? They've got the Google calendar for family, and then they've got their work calendar,
Yes.
and then their appointment personal calendar, and they're missing their appointments, and they forgot that the kid had a recital and there was a meeting at work, right? And that's because you got to check all these places to find out what you're supposed to
Yes.
be doing. And then I think that's challenging for, most of
Anybody.
us,
Yeah.
right? So, put your personal appointments, if you can, on your work calendar, right? Gym is on there, right? Lunch, definitely put lunch on the calendar.
I love that.
Not on the
Schedule
calendar,
it.
it's not there,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's so good.
Pick up kids, right? Needs to be on the calendar, right? Recital tonight, tutoring, anniversary dinner, right? All the things that you should be able to remember. Let's just start with they have to be on the calendar,
Yeah.
right? And that is a huge relief to a lot of people.
I bet. That's a good one. And I like, even when the event is in the calendar, to put an alarm with that too, like a 10-minute alarm, a reminder. Oh yeah, I need to go pick up the kids, or whatever, like you said, whatever that number is that feels good that you won't forget again.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time it's time to leave for the recital or picking up kids, that can be helpful.
And then the one that I have a lot of resistance to is go back to paper and pencil or paper and pen.
In scheduling?
For notes.
Everything.
For everything. I'll just make a note on my phone, gets lost.
Yes.
Right. Carrying a little small notebook with you and a pen, right? Or if you're at work and you have maybe you're in charge of multiple projects. The other sort of tip here is color code them.
Yeah.
And even color code your calendar, right? So personal appointments, work appointments, family appointments have to be different colors, because our brain doesn't look actually at the detail. It just knows the general, right? So if it knows that family is blue, and you look at your calendar for the day and you go, 2 blue spots, then you know that there's some things you got to do today.
Right.
Right. But if it's all the same color, I
all your own stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what am I doing today? I still don't know, even though I've looked at the calendar 5 times.
Yes.
Right. The same with, if you've got multiple projects at work, like blue notebook for this project, red notebook for another one, and they have to be separated.
Then you know where the notes are. Yep. When due dates are.
Right.
That's so good.
Right. So most of us want, school's the same way, right? I try to have my kids have a different notebook for each subject, but they want to buy those 5 subject notebooks.
And have it all together.
And inevitably, right, every subject ends up in the front of the book, even though there's tabs. Right? So our brain is not good at this type of organization unless we set it up that way. So those would be some of my tips.
I love those. How much resistance, I'm curious, do you get regarding sleep? Do people come up with a lot, or I guess describe to you a lot of sleep issues, but then really they're procrastinating sleep? Because sleep is so key, but I know that sleep can be very difficult. It is difficult for many with ADHD.
Yeah.
Or do you not hear that a lot?
I don't hear that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That just must be in my home.
Yeah. I think where I do hear that is if there's anxiety.
Okay.
Sort
Then
of
they're
comorbid. And then there's a lot of worry.
Yeah.
Right. And perseverating on what have I not done today, and what do I have to do tomorrow? And
right. Yeah. Some of what I hear is that it's quiet at night, because it's like, go to bed. Just go to bed. That'll help start the day out right, and you'll have more energy. Sleep is just essential. But they procrastinate sleep because it's finally quiet and it's me time, and their brain, they say, can quiet down. So, which is interesting, and I can get so much done, they say, but it's just a hard schedule and system.
To get into. Also phones. Phones are terrible for this, right? So, sort of the doom scrolling and that is a dopamine rush, right? But then just 10 more minutes. We've all done this. And 10 more minutes is like half an hour, and then it's an hour, and then it's 2 a.m. and so
right.
that could be part of it too, right? That sort of time blindness, like how much time is actually passing.
Talk about time
Right.
blindness, because that's another thing. Yes, I know people say those other comments we said, lazy, apply yourself, but also it makes them just seem like they don't care about being
Yeah.
on time. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, because I know that's not true. They
Yeah.
truly can't get there
Yeah.
without a lot of guardrails, helps, things like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, in relationships, this will come up in my room often, like, well, you don't understand. Is it just not important, right? That they're coming to this thing? Do they not want to come with me? Right? We reload all of these meanings onto this behavior, which actually is just a biological issue, right? That their
Right.
brain can't manage this like someone without ADHD, right? So time blindness sort of manifests in this inability to sort of gauge time well, right? So
Yeah.
I have to be, let's say for an example, I have to be at this party at 6 tonight. I look at my watch and it's 4, and I think I got plenty of time, right? The next time I look at my watch, it's 5:15, right? And I still think I have a lot of time because 6 o'clock seems very far away from 5:15 because
Yes.
maybe the friend just lives 10 minutes down the road, so I'll hop in the shower later, right? But as I head into getting into the shower, I notice that I need to put some laundry away, and so I do that. But I don't recognize that that actually took 5 minutes out of the very limited amount of time I actually had.
Yes.
And now when I'm in the bathroom and I look at the time, it's already 10 to 6. And I don't know how that happened, because the
Yes.
last time I checked the time, it was 5:15. And it doesn't seem like that much time has gone by.
Yes.
That's time blindness, right? It's like, where has the time gone?
Yes.
Right. So we're late. But we're not late because we intended to be. And we're not late because we
'Cause they
didn't
don't care.
care. Right? We're late because I don't know where the time went.
Yeah.
Right. Time blindness can also look like, I have to walk the dog today. I have a work meeting at noon. I have to pick up the kids at 2 and get them to soccer at 4. I don't have time to eat.
Okay. This is important, because food and nourishing our brain and body is key, like we've already touched on.
Yeah. I don't have time for lunch in this schedule. Right. Because
Yes.
it's not registering. The brain doesn't see it the same way. That's a very loaded schedule. And it becomes overwhelming.
That's
right?
all I can do.
That's all I
That's
can
all
do.
I can handle.
Bare minimum. Laundry, what's happening? I don't have time for that. Right. And in some ways that's true.
Right.
Right. But in some ways it's not. Right. And so that's why it's the calendar and scheduling it all out hour by hour is super helpful to, actually, there's this chunk of time. Right. The other thing that actually is being used a lot, and I know people have mixed feelings about this, but that's AI. So feeding into ChatGPT, hey, I have this schedule today, but I also need to do this. When can I do that?
Okay.
And it actually will spit out to you. It's sort of this really cool schedule. Like, actually, in between this time and this time is when you need to do that thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes,
Yeah.
isn't going to be a good fit
Yeah.
for everyone, but that's a good idea.
And it's sort of like, in the ADHD literature, we talk about accountability buddies.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what ChatGPT is acting
True.
like, right?
But you don't have to pay them.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I got to do this, 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 and walk the dog. When can I do that? When can I walk the dog? Between 12:15 and be back by this time.
Right.
Like, great.
I love that you brought up accountability partner or buddy.
Yeah.
That has been key for a couple of my children and my husband. We will both do something we don't want to do. If I have a work thing that I'm avoiding or just don't want to do on a evening, and he is working, I'm like, let's do it together.
Yeah.
And it helps so much. It helps me too.
Yeah.
Just to start it, and we're both doing something maybe not as pleasant.
Yeah.
It helps a lot with instruments. That's been one of the key things to not only, because I know practicing is hard, whatever it be, if it's your sport, but instruments seem to be especially difficult, or homework, but to sit there with the person and it helps them stay on task and they know you're there. It really is a nice support.
Yep.
one thing I love that you're talking about some of these skills and helpful tips. You guys at Life Matters Counseling has a group coming up for ADHD skills.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that. It's coming up in October, I know, but what is some of the information on that?
Yeah.
And who would be a good fit?
Yep. So it is for adults who either have a diagnosis of ADHD or maybe suspect it. And it's going to be 6 sessions, 90 minutes each, held in the evenings. Right now we're building the wait list. So we don't want the group to be larger than 10 max. Okay. So we've got a few spots left, and once they're filled, we'll sort of set the date and start going. And how it's going to work is you'll have a workbook. So everybody will sort of get a little workbook that are part of the group, and we're going to go through each of the executive functions. So let's say it's time management. Mm-hmm. So there will be sort of a 90-minute group on time management, and then in that you're going to get some really cool, for each one of these, you're going to get some handouts that are going to be useful for you to photocopy, use again. So there'll be different planning sheets, different goal setting sheets, all that type of stuff. The skills, right? Yes. Here's this thing.
Yes.
Let's see what's helpful.
Mm-hmm. And then they can apply those.
Yeah.
And 18 and above.
Yes.
Okay.
And the beauty of group is all the people that are like, oh, I've actually tried this and it's been helpful. And I get the sharing of ideas.
Learning from each other and knowing. I also love the aspect of hearing you too. They say, oh, you deal with that too? That's helpful to feel like we're not alone. Okay, we have limited time, but I want to know what else you just want to share that you feel would be helpful.
I would say, in closing.
Yes, anything that would be just helpful.
Yeah. To maybe go back way to where we started.
Okay.
ADHD is not a character flaw, right? It's a brain difference. And that is really crucial to understand. It's not something you need to hide, be ashamed of, right? It just is how your brain operates and moves through the world. Mm-hmm. And with the right understanding, strategies, and support, right, people with ADHD, it can accomplish amazing things, right? They can thrive, and there's no need to struggle with feeling lazy, stupid, not good enough, right?
Yes.
There's a name for what you're experiencing, and there's help. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the best place to start.
Yes. I love that. And one thing that's, sorry, cut that out. One thing that is helpful to know with that it's not a character flaw and that different changes in life can bring on the symptoms at different times. If there's a good structure, you might not have a difficult time or even know that you have ADHD, but add marriage or children or going to college.
Yeah.
These big life changes or a chaotic environment can obviously bring those symptoms out because it feels more chaotic. And if you don't have that structure, that can be really difficult. So
I love that you brought that up because adults will come in saying, I don't know, where does this come from? It's like, it's just like, just happened.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, no, it doesn't just happen, right? This is something you're born with. But something has caused you to pay more attention. Yeah. And it can be structure. Right? Kids have great structure at home and their homework's checked every day and their parents are on top of it. Guess what? They're doing well in school.
They don't notice that they have anything going on right then. Right.
They go to college and they have to be self-disciplined and learn their schedule and figure out when to do their homework on their own. And the system starts to fall apart, right? And that's okay, right? That just means that we need to go back to some things that worked back in childhood and bring them forward, right? And that can be a little hard to do, but we at least know we can do something, right? For women, actually, it's really interesting because what I'll see is once the kids are in the home, sometimes that can be dysregulating, but sometimes that actually holds it all together.
Because they have things, it brings structure.
It brings structure. And then the kids leave home and women come in saying, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't get anything done. Yeah. Right? How did I manage all the kids before? This is crazy. What's wrong with me?
See, so many different presentations. Yeah. So it just depends on the person. So, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thanks for all your insights. And everyone should look up that group and starts in October.
Yep. Give us a call. The number is 385-219-4980, and we can get you on the list.
Okay, thank you.
The Lift and Make Lighter podcast is brought to you by LÉVO, a primary mental health care provider. At LÉVO, we specialize in comprehensive mental health assessments, diagnoses, and treatments for all ages. For more information, visit levomind.com. That's levomind.com.